XCOM 2 announced. Just XCOM 2. Do you think they're going to take the 2 off and put like another subtitle on there?
No, they don't need to.
Sneak it in? They don't need to?
They don't need to.
Why do they need to?
XCOM, I think XCOM Enemy Unknown did better than they thought it would. I think, they had high expectations. They put a lot of work into it, but it won a lot of the Game of the Year awards. It sold really, really, really well. I think just having XCOM 2 is as much of a presence as that game needs.
So, under what circumstances did you get access to XCOM 2?
The circumstances under which I got access to XCOM 2, I cordially entered the 2K booth, and I said, "Madam, please take me to the XCOM 2 demo." And she said, "Right this way, sir." And I went inside a theater with a bunch of other
nice.
lovely gentlemen and ladies, and we sat down for a theater presentation. It was lovely.
Yeah, I played. Actually, XCOM was the first game that I demoed when we made the move to the Defy offices, and we had that week of streaming like from our desks. I was like, oh, I should play XCOM, and that's not a quick game. You really have to be cautious of absolutely every single thing you do, and despite your best efforts, it will go bad. A lot of the time. But it looked like a game I wanted to put a lot more time into, and so lo and behold, I got to play another game as well.
Yeah,
it looks pretty cool. Sounds pretty cool.
Brandon. XCOM 2 is what I wish every video game sequel could be. This is okay. I just want to say, for all of my Just Playeds, there's going to be a lot of statements that you could construe as exaggerated, but I really feel this way.
Somebody's going to establish the timeline and find all the contradictions.
Contradictions?
How many best games ever? Where you're just like, this was the best.
I mean, sometimes you just get excited and you repeat statements, but it happens. No, the reason why I say that is I feel like a lot of sequels, especially sequels for strategy games, are iterative in very predictable ways. And that's not always bad, right? They can be really good expansions or sequels if they just add new units or just have more maps or just tweak the mechanics slightly. That's not what XCOM 2 is doing. It's taking an alternate what-if scenario from the first XCOM game and making that the central plot. You lost. The aliens won. You are subservient to them. The demo that we saw, you were trying to, as this rebellious XCOM force, trying to go into this parade, essentially, where they were showing off a new statue of your alien overlord, and your objective was to destroy the statue to let them know.
You know what game also had a plot like that and was also a very good game?
Yeah.
Wolfenstein: The New Order.
Yes. Yes! Actually, I didn't think of it until now, but you're absolutely right. It has the same sort of...
Deus Ex, I get it. I get that vibe.
Same sort of style.
Where like the threat is so ingrained into the society that it's just like you don't really know where to strike.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe some people won't like this, but I feel like in XCOM Enemy Unknown, the way they sort of established how menacing the aliens were is just getting into battle and you dying a lot to them, and that they felt like a mysterious, powerful force. But they're being a lot more overt here. They're talking a lot more. They're giving more context to everything that you're doing, and I really appreciate that. It seems like they don't want you to just walk away from XCOM 2 saying, the stories that you told in Enemy Unknown, where it's like, I had this character named Michael Huber, and he died in the heat of battle, but he went out gloriously by throwing a frag grenade.
Yes.
They also want to have an actual plot as well. So I think that's cool.
Does it look like this? Does this look good? Does it look as good as Enemy
it does
Unknown?
not look. It does not look as good as this.
As the video that we're watching.
Yes. Not even close.
Because I was, I didn't think obviously that this was gameplay, but I was wondering if it was based on some kind of rendering of the engine. Compared to the first game, how does it look? Is that something that?
Much better.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Appreciable? Like, did it make your experience better playing this XCOM game? The graphical tweaks.
I didn't play it, but I saw a hands-off demo. What I noticed is the animation seemed better as well. Like even the guys running to cover and snapping into cover, the way they oriented the camera, how quickly they got up into their actions. Like I feel like in a lot of strategy games, you sort of get this like, okay, I select this space and then my character turns and he runs. Everything in XCOM 2 was very fluid, right? It felt like each of your units was an actual human being moving in a convincing way, which was super cool.
Now we got this cool XCOM expansion. I think it's got one expansion, Enemy Within, that where you could like bond with some alien DNA or like do some gene.
And you had psionic powers,
gene splicing and stuff. They talk about that at all?
No, but they did talk about. They showed rather. You have a ranger unit, and initially the ranger unit acted pretty predictably. She was a female, and she got behind cover and she shot with her assault rifle. But then, after you defeated the first wave of enemies, there was this vehicle, and the doors bust open, and probably the coolest moment of the demo. They call it the Viper, and it's this giant snake that will wrap around one of your units and just like fling it across the map. And it is the quickest unit that I've seen in an XCOM game. It's just like, it's on top of you. Yeah. And it slithers out of the truck. And the ranger's like, I gotta take this thing down. Hops over the wall, pulls out a sword, gets in its face, and just slashes it. And they said melee combat is going to have a presence, like a significant presence in this game.
Cool.
And the way that they showed it off, they even kind of did like a almost behind the back shot when the character slashed the Viper. I thought it was really neat.
How is the pace? Is it similar to the first one, the pace of battle?
Yeah, so it's similar in the sense that, you have your turn and you move all your units before the enemy can act unless they're under Overwatch, and they'll trigger when you enter their space. But in terms of, I guess I don't know how to answer it other than that. It seemed like another thing that they want to accomplish in XCOM 2, and they didn't explicitly say this, is that the missions themselves are more complicated, right? So you may go to a mission and you have one objective, let's say it's to eliminate all enemies. Something will happen in the mission that makes that more complicated, and so you'll have to deal with the spontaneous situation before you can deal with the situation that you set out to do.
I have a question. What does Bloodworth think?
Actually, I had a question, and that was, had they talked at all about your base building?
No.
Because I would think that being an underground resistance is a lot different than being
we need a mobile game.
A huge than being like a huge part of the government. It's like, okay, you can't build this huge underground silo or whatever you had going on before.
I mean, they show that at the end of the trailer. That's pretty much, you go back to base, right?
Yeah, well, we didn't, in the gameplay demo that we saw, and it was all gameplay outside of the like sort of initial introduction. I didn't see any base building whatsoever, so I can't answer that question. I wish I could. I think it's an excellent question.
It's probably like one last place that humankind has, kind of thing.
The other thing is, I mean, you're still XCOM,
Right.
So who's to say that you don't still have access to the same facilities? Because XCOM is a global effort.
I would think it would just make sense, though, for it to be impacted significantly in some way.
So it's crazy. One thing, just to wrap things up, that I was kind of marveling at the other day is it seems like I'm really enjoying this revitalization of so many franchises, because it's something that was kind of like stagnant, I think, at the beginning of the century when we got into 3D. We could really, I think last gen when it wasn't just PS2 graphics, but Xbox, but you could actually make really impressive games. And so there was Prince of Persia kind of didn't know what to do for a couple years. A lot of franchises were like, should we reboot or what are we doing?
It still doesn't know what to do. It disappeared after the last
No,
one.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't want to bring up Prince of Persia. But it's just you look at Tomb Raider, Hitman. There's all these great, franchises that are just starting. Need for Speed. They're just I think it's time for us to make a full investment and really not just, think of the whole story, kind of like what Disney's doing with Star Wars. It's let's just wipe this slate clean, start over. Not in the interest of making a quick buck on one thing, but really having a new, especially if it's a new developer, a new team that's we're in on this, let's do it for a long time. So, XCOM 2, XCOM 3, it's cool. It'd be really cool if this is a big blockbuster franchise in games.
It would be, especially because, I feel like a lot of the other games that you mentioned, and not that there's anything wrong with that, they're trying to appeal to as many people as possible. And XCOM is brutal. No matter how you play it, it's a super difficult game that you will probably completely fail your first time. And to have a strategy game reach the level of success and how complex it is, I think it's really an achievement.
And when is the next time you think you're going to get to play it?
I bet they'll have a strong showing at Gamescom. They also really hyped up Firaxicon, which is in September.
All right.
And I hope and I think it will have a big showing there.
GT presence at Firaxicon? Where's that?
So we talked about that,
I don't
and
know.
they said you're invited. So
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
Firaxicon confirmed. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah. you.